On the Sideline, a podcast for coaches and aspiring coaches, where we share the best practices of coaching, interview with coaches, and experts in the field of coach education. Here's your host, Vin Blaine.
Welcome to today's show. We will be talking to Stephen Constantine about when do we start trying to develop the winning mentality over the development of players. Stephen is a FIFA instructor, a UEFA Pro licensed coach, and one of the most traveled coaches around. His past appointment before moving on was in India, where he improved their FIFA ranking from 173 to 97 in a little bit over 2 years. Hi, Stephen. Welcome to the show. Hi, good to have you, man.
Hi, thank you. Brilliant. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a long time since we kind of met up, but really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Yeah, and I appreciate you accepting my invitation. We're going to be discussing a very, not a controversial, but I think a topic that is very current, especially with youth coaches, because like you who coach at the top level, you had to win because your job depended on it. But if you're talking about at a low level with youngsters, this is where that conversation will come in. We're talking about winning versus development. With your experience, and I know you're a FIFA instructor, so you must have had some conversation on that in the past. I would want to know your opinion. I'm going to leave the discussion to you right now. You tell me what's your position on winning versus development.
Okay. Well, look, I don't think it's a controversial topic, to be honest, although people make it out to be. When we are putting bigger, stronger players to play games in order to win games at under 9, under 10, under 11. Are we doing that to win the game, or are we trying to develop the player? For me, I would say up to the age of about 14 or 15, it's all about development. It is development after that, but let's look at the old story. Let's put the fat kid in goal. Let's put the big guy up front. And everybody else can do their thing, when that's not the case, because kids take time to develop. They develop at different rates. And then if you look globally, the level of coaching is almost, for me, it's paramount to the success of this. So I would say shall we call them the advanced countries? Maybe some of the advanced countries in Europe, they will start trying to win at 14, 15 because they can, because they have that quality. Whereas maybe in the Caribbean, in certain parts of Europe, certain parts of Africa, we are not at that level. And so we still need that time to develop the kids. And I think I honestly tell my youth coaches, national teams that I've worked at, clubs that I've worked at, I don't care if you win the under 12 league. I really don't care.
Right.
I want 10, 11, 12 of those kids to be going to the under 13s or the under 14s. That's your job. Your job is to develop the players. My job is to pick the players for the senior team. And when you consider the millions of dollars, euros that clubs are spending on the development of their youth program, it's to develop their players in order to play for the first team. So,
yeah,
that's my first.
Right, I agree with that 100%. And you have been to, I know you have been to Jamaica, and you have seen some of the talent there. But I think that, from my perspective, I believe that we have lost the development side of it, because even at the clubs with youngsters that are under 15 and under 16, all the clubs are hell-bent on is to win the competition. They're not in it to develop the players. So I understand your position there.
Look, I think part of the problem there, Vin, is that the under 14 or the under 15 coach thinks that he's going to go and be the coach in the first team if he wins the under 15 league, or he thinks he's going to get another $50 at the end of the month because he's going to get a higher salary because he had won the under 12 league. You know what? Apart from the parents and the coach, no one cares if you win the under 12 league. Not really, maybe for a day or two, and then it's done. The job of the youth coach, okay, and let's say, for example, when I was assistant at the academy of Bournemouth, we had up to under 15, 26 games in a season. There was no league table. There was no top scorers. There was none of that. We won the game. We lost the game. We drew the game. It had no relevance in other than to develop the kids. Okay. And for me, up to under 14, say under 15, it's development / recreational. It becomes money once you start picking them for the under 16, under 17s where they can turn professional.
Right.
So my message to my youth coaches, you are not going to get a promotion or an extra $100 if you win the under 14 or under 13 league. You're going to get super credit if you put 3 or 4 players into the under 17 youth team, and from there they go on and they have a professional career. That's your job.
Yeah, so in essence, what you're saying, I agree with you 100%. But in essence, what you're saying that at the very lowest level or the lower level, right? The concentration should be on development to propel a player into maybe the higher level, because that's what there should be some continuation in the club, development wise.
Of course. There needs to be a clear pathway from your under 8s, if you like, up to the under 15, under 16s. Now, if you speak to a Portuguese or an English, they will say under 15 they are trying to win, and that's fine because they have had that process from the very beginning. They won't be trying to win games at under 9 or under 10, but 11 and 12 they'll start to put a little bit more pressure. And then 13, 14, it will continue, but still, it's still development. But they want to win at under 17, which
right.
I agree with.
All right, so do you think then, so it begs the question, is it now, do you think that because that some kids get dropped out of programs because coaches are selecting talent to win and not selecting players to develop, you think that's the case in a lot of respect?
1,000,000%.
1,000,000%. I think that, yeah.
There's some coaches. Some coaches want to win the games. They want to win the under 12 league, as I said before, because they think that they're going to go up or they're going to move up with the kids. But the money, if you like, is with the coach. Okay, put your money, invest in your money in a coach. The coach has to be at the level of the kids.
Right.
We want them to enjoy the game. Once they enjoy the game, they're in love with it. They're hooked for life.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But if you are screaming from the touchline, pass, run here, do this, do that, do this, you upset the kids. Then you have the parents screaming and shouting, and in the end, the kid doesn't want to play football. And they've got to enjoy it first.
Of course. Then another question to you, because this is important. A lot of coaches sacrifice, winning, sacrifice development for winning. What effect do you think that have on the players, the youngsters?
I think you can burn them out. They can lose interest when it becomes unenjoyable. At the younger ages, you want them to come out and have fun. 10, 11 years old, you start to see some special things from some special players. But they still need to develop that, where to do it, why to do it, when they're doing it, how they're doing it. All of these things come. Some players, look, Ian Wright was 21 when he signed his first professional contract. There was so many players who did not make it straight off the bat because they weren't ready. Some players develop faster than others, and we have to really consider this.
Yeah.
And I don't think we always do. I mean, look at Jamie Vardy.
Right.
Jamie Vardy has played in all 4 divisions, plus non-league, but he was rejected at 16.
And
Which is when you're being offered a contract. He didn't make it until he was 19, 21, I think it was.
Yeah, but and he came to the fore when Leicester started to win.
Only then.
Only then, so I understand that. At what point, you see, and this is a question that's kind of I think it might be redundant, or I repeated it before, but I still want to get your opinion, right? At what point do you think that coaches sacrifice winning, right? Sacrifice development for winning? There's some point.
No, honestly, I think if the coach wants to win the game, he's going to be doing that all along.
From day one. From day one.
From day one, he may not outwardly say it. I mean, because look, when I hire a coach for youth development, I tell him clearly, I don't care if you lose all your games, as long as the kids are having fun and you are developing them. Of course, you don't want them to lose the games, because obviously that is there's no fun in losing all your games. But your job is to produce players, to develop players to go on to the next level. And that's your job. So I say to them, do your job.
Yeah, I agreed. So let us look at the smaller countries. That is where I think development should be of utmost importance. We don't have like in the USA and Europe, they can go and select from a million players, right? In the smaller islands, and I know you were at one time being attached to Jamaica. I was looking forward to you coming by. But a small country, the culture in a small country, right, determines that you should pay more attention to development, because you don't have players to throw out and choose at will.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I'm currently based in Cyprus, population 800,000. And they have, if you go down to the parks where they play their youth football and see, it's absolute mayhem. There are parents screaming from the sidelines, they're fighting each other. And this is under 12, under 13. I don't even go anymore, because I just cannot stand to see these parents who think they're going to solve their financial issues through their sons or daughters. It's just absolutely meant to win at all costs, because they think that winning the under 12 championship is going to somehow propel their daughter into the Premier League or La Liga or MLS or something like this. It doesn't work like this. And what we should be focusing on, it's not the players that is the problem, it's the coaches. And
sorry to cut you, but you mentioned that, and that's a good talking point for me. What are some of the things that coaches or the clubs should consider when they're looking at development versus winning? There's a responsibility on the clubs and the coaches, even if it's not the coaches, but the clubs that are hired these coaches, right? There's a responsibility to have a pathway, a document that says this is how we want to approach our development. What are some of the things you think, some of the areas that you think that they should be concentrating on in this development pathway?
Okay, well, look, I think the first and foremost is that the sporting director or technical director, whatever you want to call him, who is the guy who's going to be hiring these guys? Okay, so in the national teams that I have coached, in some cases, I have been the one to hire the coaches. And I will clearly say to them, look, your job is to develop the under 14s, the under 15s, so that they go to the under 17s. Under 17s is all about winning. Okay?
Right.
Now, you have to strike a balance, 14, 15, between winning and development. You're not going to, there should not be the conflict. I want to win this game. So I'm not going to put Vin into play because he's not quite ready. No, you put Vin into play and see how he does. and then if you need to make a change, you can make a change. We don't want win at all costs, not in the smaller countries, not in the developing countries, and not in certain areas. As I said before, once it gets to 15, 16, it is about winning, and it is about trying to get onto the professional ladder.
I agree. There's another concern, not concern, but I've always in coaching courses sometimes ask the coaches, is your philosophy win at all cost, or you're looking at development? And I tell you, about 90% of them will say development. But when the game starts,
I'd say 90% of them are lying.
That's right. Exactly what I'm coming to. When the game starts, it's a different kettle of fish. It's totally different than what they said. The philosophy changes overnight. The philosophy changes in the next minute before the game starts.
Yeah, but you see, they need to be told. That needs to be made clear before you hire them, because some of these guys may feel that if they don't win, they're going to get fired.
Yes, yeah, and that's true.
With some
cases,
with some people, some cases, it is true.
Yes.
But that needs to be made clear, crystal clear from day one when you hire the guy. Look, I will be more than happy, and you know what? There's a bonus if you get 3 of those players into the under-17 team. And you know what? If you're still with the club, there's another bonus if they play for the first team. Okay? Mm-hmm. That should be the target. I mean, okay, not everyone can afford to do that, but
yes.
But you can show your appreciation to these guys in many different ways.
Let's take a little lower level again. We can safely say that at under 12, under 13, right? That sessions should be designed to improve to develop the players, right?
Yes.
Instead of trying to develop them to win a game.
Right. But, I mean, look, 11 years old, you're starting to play 11v11.
Right.
So now we need to focus on responsibility, position, working with a group, working with 11, because they're coming from 9v9. So, that obviously is the next step up.
Yeah, that's well. So back to give me a situation. Like, I know you work in Africa, you work in India, and you study other nations, because as part of your job with FIFA, you travel all over the world, and you have seen. Is there any big difference in development in Europe to the third? Let's call them third world countries.
Okay. Well, but I don't like to call them third world countries.
I don't like smaller. I don't like it. Right, I was just about to say that.
So let's not call them third world countries. They are smaller countries. Look, I think we have the tendency when we are smaller to think that we need to do more to compensate for being small. Okay. Let's look at Iceland. Iceland produced players not to play in Iceland, to play in Europe. They went to the World Cup, they went to the Euros, and 95% of their players were playing in other countries. The Icelandic League has 8 teams. They were not playing in Iceland. Okay. So what we should be doing, let's say, if I put my Jamaican hat on and say, in Jamaica or Trinidad or where you are now, we need to produce coaches who are going to produce players on a regular basis. And we need to get them out. We need to get them into the MLS. We need to get them into the Canadian League or in the European leagues. How do we do that? For me, there should be zero difference between a 16-year-old Jamaican in Jamaica and a 16-year-old boy in London or in Barcelona or in Bayern Munich or wherever. Why? Because technically and tactically, they should be getting the same information. They should be getting the same level of coaching. It's there for everyone on internets. There's sessions, there's courses, UEFA, CAF, CONCACAF, whatever. They're par for par. The thing in Europe is that they pay more attention to the details of coaching than we do in other places. So in England and with me in Africa, if there's a mistake, stop. In the Caribbean, it might be, it's okay, never mind.
Yes.
Which is, it does mind, it does matter. Every single detail matters. And this is why you have, in Cyprus, we have the UEFA Pro license. But if you compare the UEFA Pro license in Cyprus to the UEFA Pro license in England, it's like night and day.
Oh.
Because the detail, the insistence. We are a smaller nation, therefore we need more coaches. And I say, no, we need quality coaches.
Exactly.
We need ones. If the coach cannot see what the mistake is, then how is he going to fix it? If the player is not corrected, how is he going to fix it? So we have to spend, and I found this when I did courses in the Caribbean and in Africa. People know the game. There's no question. Everyone, most people know the game. But when you go in the field, do you see the mistake?
Exactly.
Did you fix the mistake? What was the mistake? And did the player understand if you fixed the mistake? So there's quite a lot of stuff. It's not you got your pro license or your CONCACAF A license and you are ready to go.
Yes. Yes.
That doesn't make you a coach.
Yeah.
By having a diploma.
Right. And I've said it all the time because I've had situations like you, and you have a coach who has just done a course or is doing a course, and he's teaching a simple passing, but he was a player, good player, but cannot tell the rudiments of how they must pass the ball.
Well, that is spot on, because I once had a word with Michel Platini, and I said to him, "How come you're not coaching?" He said, "Stefan," "I didn't know how I did the things I did. How am I going to coach it?" So, and then you may have somebody like myself who I didn't play at the top level anywhere, but I pay attention to the details and the learning. Yes. So, yeah, I can hit a ball, as can you, but can you coach it?
Right.
And that's the question.
That's $1 million question right there. And
it is.
But don't you find? Because I'm sticking to the coaching now, because the players are at the mercy of the coaches, right? Development-wise. Now, I believe that coaches oftentimes, as you said, they get an A license and that's it for them. Their development almost ceases as far as their own personal knowledge. And and I'm seeing where I think that what you're saying now, which I endorse, is that coaches need to pay more attention to their development to assist players' development.
Look, all I can say is I had the pro license since 2004. Okay, I've been a FIFA instructor for 20 years. I have the USSF A license. Okay, and I still am not done. I will enlist on an LMA diploma course coming up because I need to learn.
Right.
It doesn't stop.
Right.
The A license is the A license. The game is a fluid game by nature. There are lots of things coming into the game. You need to be current. You need to understand. More importantly, the kids of today, they are 100 times smarter than we were when we were kids. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Okay. So how are you going to motivate them? How are you going to keep their interest for 1 hour or 45 minutes when all they want to do is play on their phones and send Instagrams and WhatsApps and what have you? So you have to be current, and you are not current if you're standing still.
So player development then involves a lot of planning from the coach. That's a given. Does. That's a given, right? What? But this is one of the areas I find that coaches fall down in planning, So they
Wow.
they go to a session and they just decide to wing it, do what they feel like doing today, and not a plan.
I will give you an example. Okay, so Cyprus is in Europe. For the listeners who don't know, it's a small island off of the coast of Greece, a stone's throw from Lebanon. And today I was speaking to a parent, and he said, we had a session last night. Oh, I said, how was it? He said, yeah, not bad. They had a guy who would do the warm-up, so they would do some light calisthenics, a little jogging with the ball and what have you. He said, and then this is for half an hour, okay, under 14s. Then after that, the coach made them play handball for another 15 minutes. I said, okay, and what happened after that? He said, well, they played 9-a-side for another 20 minutes. And the coach became the referee, and he only blew the whistle when there was a foul. And I said, so what was the session about? He said, good guess. I have no idea. And this is it. You must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Maybe separate things in blocks. So, for example, I asked a coach here today, how many ways can you turn with a ball? Okay, we all know there are 6 ways to turn with the ball: inside hook, outside hook, what have you. Okay, and this person had a C license and yet didn't know those 6 turns.
Right.
So you see what's the level of coaching here in Cyprus.
Yes. Yes.
Small nation, trying to get coaches qualified, but you're getting people qualified who can't teach. So then how do you expect your players to learn? They will get there in the end, but the European player will be getting this from the age of 5, 6.
Yes.
And in the fun of the session, there will be things that they will be asked to do and shown how to do. Okay, off you go, have a go, come back, bang, bang. And we really, really, really got to pay attention to details, especially in the smaller countries where one player playing in the Premier League would mean the world to Trinidad or Jamaica.
All the smaller countries, for sure. And I love this conversation because coaching is our passion. Yours, mine, anybody who does coach instructing. And
I will tell. Sorry to interrupt you, but I must tell the listeners.
Yes.
The first time I met you was in Jamaica, quite a few years ago.
Yes.
Normally, the technical directors, they are there for the opening ceremony. They say hello, how are you, anything you need, and then they leave. Vin Blaine did not leave for the entire week, sat in the front row and was nodding his head, thank God, at most things that I was saying. So I take my hat off to you, sir. That's what this is about. It's all about learning.
And that's what passion is. I've seen coaches that say, I'm not interested in that course. I've gone to courses where I've seen top coaches stand at the door and listen the entire time. And if you learn one thing today, it's more than what you knew yesterday. That's how I look at it. And coaching is something that this is why this podcast is about coach education. And that's why I'll have people like you on who have an experience, been doing this for years and years and years, and not just in one area. You know the culture of different countries, and you can explain to the wider audience what exactly happens in these places, because you have had places where everything is available to the coaches. Anything they want, they have it to their disposal. You have nations that only have 6 balls at a training, and you have to know how to manipulate and to plan for that particular session.
Look, I think we have all been in situations where we don't have everything we want.
Right.
I mean, the first time I went to train the national team of India, they did not have markers. So I sent somebody across the road to buy colored plates.
that is
and we put stones on top of the colored plates so I could make my 10 by 10 grids to play 5 versus 2. Now I could have thrown my hat in the air and said, okay, I'm done. This is what is this? Or I'm going to find a way to get the session done. And I think there's a difference. There are 100 excuses you could find every day, or there was traffic, or the kids didn't turn up, or the bids weren't clean, or this. Look, if you love the game, then you'll find a way to make your session an enjoyable one, and make sure that the players are looked after, taken care of, and have learned and enjoyed from the session that you've given them.
True. The youth development, which is what this is really about, concentrating on that. From your perspective, and put your instructor's hat on now. You're with a group of youth coaches, and you're saying, okay, give me in perspective and the age groups, what out of the 4 components of the game that are regular talked about, what should the young coach be looking at to concentrate on first? Because you have a lot of them want to do what they see on the internet. Barcelona doing some things, and they're trying these type of things. What do you think that a coach should concentrate on with a young group? You can name the groups and the development pathway.
Well, look, I think we all know that the foundation ages are between 5 and 8 years old. Okay. Football and this, I know that if Tom Bayer is listening to this, he'll go, "You stole that from me." But Tom is a coach. All he does is talk about youth development and how to do it. And he says, and for me, absolutely spot on, football starts at home. You know how we all wish that we had sons. In my case, I only have daughters, but we all wish we had sons. And first thing we do when he can walk is kick the ball. But Tom's philosophy, and if you think about it, it's absolutely correct, is we don't want the boy to kick the ball. We want the boy to manipulate the ball with his left foot, then his right foot. It's all about manipulation. Anybody can kick a ball 2 or 3 yards at that age. But can he do a turn with the ball? Can he use both feet as good as the other foot? And this is what it's about. So I think you start to build a player between the ages of 9 to 12. Okay. When I say build the player, at 9 years old, they're going to be playing 8v8s, 7v7s, maybe a little bit of 9v9s. At 12, they're going to be 11v11. And players then start, I want to be a centre forward. I want to be in midfield. I don't think anybody says they want to be a defensive midfield player, but except me. But you gravitate into that position, and I must say I have to mention a guy called Joe Roach, who was my boss at Bournemouth at the academy. What we did is between the ages of 13 and 15, we would rotate the players. So we would have them. So Vin, you would be left back, and you'd be left back for 6 weeks. Okay. Then we'd put you right midfield. Then we'd put you centre half. Then we'd put you up front or centre back, to give you a complete overview of the positions. Of course, we wouldn't put you in goal. I think that's a different thing, and a goalkeeper is a goalkeeper. But we would try to give the players a little taste of what it's like to be in that position. By the time they're 13, 14, 15, they've gravitated. You know that this kid is going to be a good centre forward, or he's going to be a good right back. But you know what? He can understand what he needs to do at centre midfield. Maybe he's not a centre midfield, but he understands a little bit about this role. And that makes for a complete rounded player for me. I think so the development there is between 9 and 12. And then we are preparing the players from the ages of 12 to 15 to get ready for the last little push for me, which is between 15 and 16, because that is the age that they're going to be offered, hopefully, professional football and or a little bit later scholarships.
After the 9 to 12 age group that you're talking about, I like the fact that you say they are placed in different positions, because I find that in most of these places, that a lot of places, I should say most, a lot of places, that you find that the kid comes in and he's a centre forward, he's a defender, and they tell themselves that because the coach does also. So they have no understanding of other positions. And I like the fact that you pointed that out, because I believe they should not be locked into a position so young.
Not at the age of 9 or 12. I mean, they will gravitate to the position. When you have a free play game at the end of your session, you're going to have 20 minutes and it's free play where you don't speak. You just let them play. And you can change them and help them. Maybe the kid says, "Coach, I feel I'm better in this position." I mean, I played 5 or 6 positions before I found my position, which was I played left back for my school. I played centre forward. I played centre half. But my position, was a defensive midfield player. But we didn't have this kind of coaching that we have nowadays, and
right.
And I think that it's very important that we don't pigeonhole players from because they're big and strong. He's going to be a centre half. Why can't he be right midfield if he can do the work?
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
it's important.
Yeah, I think that's part of the whole development process too. Not just the X's and the O's are teaching them to pass a ball. I think that movement and that understanding the game, because I think if they understand the game, they'll more understand what the player that's receiving the ball might be doing or might do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we look at the players, and at 9, 12 years old, do we expect them to know their job? We have senior professional players who don't know their job. Mm-hmm. But why is that? It's because we haven't spent the time to explain. In this particular system that we're going to play, this is your job. Do your job, as the New England Patriots coach says, Bill Belichick, do your job. I would go a little bit further than Bill and say, you first got to know your job before you can do your job. And we must be spending time on the field and off the pitch, educating the young players in what is the role of the left back. What is the role of the left back if you are in a 4-4-2, for example, or if you play 3 in the back. What is the role of the left-sided defender? Now, this has to be explained on and off the pitch. By who? The coach.
Exactly. The 15 to 18-year-olds. In that, you say there'll be a balance in winning and development in that level, age group? Yeah,
kind of. Look, one of my jobs at AFC Bournemouth was to decide if the under-15s that I was in charge of and the age groups underneath, if they were good enough to go to the under-17s, where they would be offered terms to stay with the club. So we are looking now. These kids are going to be 15 years old, some of them 16. They have to know what's happening. It's dog eat dog. Especially in Europe, where contracts are very hard to get. There's a lot of competition and there's a lot of talent. So it's, I would say 14, 15, you are about trying to win the game. You are about making sure that you know what your job is, because if you don't know your job, you're not going to get that pass to go to the under 16s or under 17s.
And you think that at that age group, the development should more lean towards tactical development as opposed to if you did the base work already?
Okay, so if as soon as they start 11v11, you're going to be doing tactical stuff
Right.
with them, roles, responsibilities, that kind of thing. That has to be there. It just every year it gets a little bit more complex, more complex. I mean, if you give something to some kids, like I said, some understand quicker, some understand slower, some develop as players quicker and slower. The hormones, the rate of growth, and all these kind of things. Plus, you have to think of the physiological aspect of kids. Some have arms they're hanging down by their legs, past their knees. They can't run so much because the bone has not quite developed. So there's loads of things that you have to consider. But I think for me, it starts to become business at 15, under 15, under 16.
Right. Let's switch from the clubs now, because we'll be talking about coaches and basically clubs and development within clubs. At the national level, give me your views on what you think, because a lot of people think that even clubs think that development should be at the national level. I'm not saying that maybe we can't. Well, I shouldn't. What happens now, what obtains now, is a lot of national associations and coaching within the association has to do with the player development, which shouldn't be towards technical side too. My position is that.
Okay. For me, the correct way is for the national teams to be taking players from the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have two types of national teams. You have the one national team where they are providing the players for the clubs, and then you have the national teams that are taking the players from the clubs. The correct way is the latter.
Right.
Okay. Why? Because the clubs are spending day in, day out with these players. What has happened to me in many of my national teams is we were developing players for the clubs. So my under-16 national team in India, I would have taken them from schools, high schools, villages, no clubs. And as soon as they get to the national team, the next day they're being snapped up by agents and clubs and fine. That's no problem. Okay. But it's not the responsibility of the National Association. It's the responsibility of the clubs to develop the players. Why? Because they see them on a daily basis. The national team is at best 5, maybe 6 times in a year that you get together. There is no time or not much time for the national team at the youth ages to develop these players. It's sad, but some countries do expect the national team to produce players, and they go and nick the players from the national team when the players have no teams. But that's the wrong way around.
One of my final questions to you: do you think coaches are misguided to think that winning is development?
I think okay. I will go and say from 15 up, you should be trying to win.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Now let me clarify that. So in some cases, in some clubs, there is a community sense. There's we're having the club for community purposes. At what point does that become business for the club? We say 16 in Europe because in Europe they can leave home and they can be offered professional contracts at that age. So 16, 17 is the business end of it as far as a youth is concerned. Obviously, depending where you are, maybe in the United States, their target is university. Through university, they go to MLS, although this is changing now. The kids are not going to universities anymore. They're going straight to the MLS, where schools are working with clubs and they can go into the clubs and educate them while they're at the clubs. And that is the best possible scenario. But you still have to get there. So whether you're 16, 17 when you're leaving school, or you're 17 or 18 when you're leaving school, there's just a little bit of a year or so difference. But like I said, I think the best scenario is 15 down. We say it's all about development, and 15 up, it's about winning. Maybe some people will argue with that, but I think that's the right way.
Well,
You're still developing at 15?
Yes. That sort of took care of the question I was going to ask you. If you had anything else to say as far as the debate goes about winning versus development. I think it's a good conversation, because you have to clarify at what point, and you did, when winning takes place, and then when development takes place. I should split the other way around. When development takes place, and then winning follows.
Okay, I will say development never stops.
Never stops.
Okay, it never stops. Just because you are 18 and you have a professional contract doesn't mean you've stopped developing.
Right.
That is a continuous process for a player. It's a continuous process for us as coaches. Never be happy with yourself. There's always something you can do to improve yourself, and that has to be there for the player. I mean, we say development after they've made it, shall we say, or they've got a professional contract. They don't stop developing. They now, you hope, have gone on to a higher level of development where more is going to be asked for them, more pressure, more physical stuff, more mental stuff, and that's part of their development. But shall we say, from development as far as playing the game, learning to love the game, know your position. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think after you get to 14, 15, it becomes a little bit more serious. The kid is now doing the right things, eating the right things, taking care of himself. There's all this information around it, and he wants to be a professional player. Then you're going to say, well, okay, what do we need to do? We need to do this, and this, and hope that he has a good coach. For the coach, the development part is all the way through. And I would say, if you're an under 14 and under 15 coach, make sure that they're having fun. Make sure that you are teaching them the right things, because trust me, when they do make it, they are not going to forget you.
Right.
But for putting them in the right path.
That's a good way to end. That's a good note to end on, Stephen. It was absolutely a delight to have this conversation with you. We are coming a long way. As you say, we met in Jamaica, and there's a vast amount of information in that head of yours. And I look for I look forward to engaging you again.
I'm ready to. Man, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. It's always a pleasure to see you, to work with you, and I hope in future that we are on the bench together somewhere.
Thank you, man. And before I forget, I should mention, because you're an author in your own rights, From Delhi to the Den. That's your autobiography.
Up to now.
Yeah, that must be quite a read, And looking forward myself. I've never had a chance to read, but I know you sent me. I went through a part of it, but I know you sent me the picture. You never sent me the book, but you sent a picture of the book.
I will have to send you the book, and maybe I can send you a couple that you can give away on your podcast. Okay, thanks much, man. As I said, it's a pleasure having you on the sideline. I hope to have you again. I'm sure I'll have you again talking about some other intriguing facts that the coaches can benefit from. Because this is definitely towards coach education. Thanks again, Stephen. Have a good one. Thank you so much, Ben. Take care. That, coaches, was Stephen Constantine discussing an intriguing topic regarding the issue: when do you start focusing on winning over the development of players? Don't miss our next episode, where we will be joined by Ray Hall, former academy manager of Everton Football Club, where he discusses the topic of identifying
potential talent.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in this show, please share with your friends. We'd love to hear your views. So if you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Make sure to visit our website at onthesideline.net, where you can access coaching sessions and more.